So we talked about my favorite books of the year. Let's talk about some of my least favorite. You know, the one that's like, womp womp. Hello everyone. Today I'm here to share with you my least favorite books of the year. Books I didn't like. Books I expect a lot from but didn't get it. Whatever you want to call it. Here's the video. So I make one of these every year. As always, we have a caveat of maybe there's a book on this list that you really loved and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she didn't like it. I'm so mad. Don't be mad. It's okay. We all have differences. I might love a book that you don't like or things like that. It's okay. We all have different opinions. So just know that before going into this. I try not to put too many books on this list because I don't like slamming books. I really don't. Like, I don't get a lot of pride in it. I don't ever want to finish a book being like, I can't wait to really hate review this. I don't want to do that. But unfortunately, there's some books that you read and you're just like, didn't really like it. So this is what this video is all about. Let's get into it. First up, we're going to talk about one that's been kind of a recent letdown for me, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. I've talked about my relationship with Ruth Ware so many times on this channel. I have read now all of her books, and I don't really like any of them. There's a couple, like The Woman in Cabin 10, and maybe another one I can't think of that I do like, but I don't love them. And this one has got to be one of my least favorite ones. In fact, one of my least favorite books of all time is another one of her books, In a Dark, Dark Wood. I loathe that book, and I just didn't like One by One. It's like this thriller that's set in like the Swiss Alps, and like a company goes there and things happen, and it was just so predictable and so boring. It was supposed to be like a classic whodunit, and I didn't like it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. You're probably not surprised either that it's on this list, because I've just talked about my relationship with Ruth Ware is literally a roller coaster that goes down. Oh Lord, let me move on. I didn't like it. There you go. Next up is one that's probably going to be on a lot of people's list, is The Ballad of Song, Birds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is her latest book in the Hunger Games series, I guess. It was an origin story about President Snow, which I think a lot of us were really excited about when she was going to release this, because we're like, what character was going to be? And then we learned it was about President Snow, and I was like, I don't really care. And I read it after, and I'm like, I don't really care. I said a lot about this book. I have a whole video on it. A lot of people disagree, actually. There are a lot of people that really enjoyed this book, that really got a lot more depth and intrigue out of it, more than me. Like, reading my comments on that video, I feel so stupid, because they're like, have you thought about this way? Have you thought about that way? And I'm like, I didn't. So I'm just like, I guess I'm just not that smart, which is true. But the bottom line is I just didn't enjoy this book. I did like reading a little bit about the origin story of how the Hunger Games came to be what they are, and how Snow had a really big part in it. But just the pacing was so incredibly slow. Like the first 2/3 of the book were just slow, and then the third book just happened like a freaking train wreck, and it just went on so fast. And I was like, we have to find some sort of pacing here. So I didn't enjoy it. I don't know if she's going to continue on the series, if she's going to write more books about President Snow. If so, I don't know if I'll read them or not. I just wasn't really invested in this one at all. Next is The Best Laid Plans by Cameron Lund. This is a YA contemporary book that I didn't enjoy. So it's like a cutesy contemporary book, which I love. You guys know I love contemporary books. I just love romance. Give me any genre and any romance, I'm there. So we have a character named Keely, and Keely is like known as the last virgin in school, and apparently that is the world's worst thing, is to be the virgin. So she gets a new job, and she meets this guy, and he's a college guy, and he's much more experienced, and she's like, he's gonna see that I'm a virgin, and then I can't ever be like grown because I'm not a virgin. And so she decides to enlist like her best friend, who's like a really big player named Andrew, I believe. And she's like, hey, teach me your sexual ways, and, you know, I'll become more experienced, and I'll be worthy of this college guy. That's all I need to know. I mean, I think I just didn't like it because of what it taught sexuality for teenagers. I'm all about teaching the correct things with sexuality when it comes to teenagers and stuff, but to shame somebody for like being a virgin or not is just, I don't know. Like, I don't know why we put such a big emphasis on it. I don't get it. And so I did not like this, of how much everyone was like, oh, she's a virgin, she can't do this, she's not really grown because she's a virgin. I'm like, why does that matter? It doesn't. So I'm sorry. I didn't enjoy it. Apparently Mean Me is coming out today. I'm sorry. Next up, another thriller, The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I read this year because I also read her newest one, The Guest List, and it was one of my favorite thrillers I've ever read. So I was really excited about reading this one, and I did not enjoy it. This is kind of, it really reminded me of a Ruth Ware novel, as in where all of the characters are horrible and you just don't care about what happens to them. This is one of those for me. So this whole book is about these college friends that, you know, met in college, and it's been years later, and they decide to spend New Year's together at this like cabin-y place, and basically somebody dies, and that's all you need to know. And all the characters are horrible. They're all doing bad things to each other because they're all backstabby friends, and they're not really friends because they're all keeping secrets. And by the end, you're like, I don't care who got killed. I don't like any of you. Oh my gosh. I promise I did not try to be like as snarky as possible in this video. I need to tone it down. I didn't like it. It was such a far cry as far as the mystery element goes from The Guest List, because that did also have some unlikable characters in it. But this one, I just did not enjoy the characters. The big mystery was blah. So sad to say, I was sad about this one. Another thriller I did not like. This is the last thriller, I promise. The Girl from Widow Hills by Megan Miranda. I saw the cover for this one. I was immediately intrigued because the cover is beautiful and the plot sounded really interesting. So I read this in e-arc, so please forgive me if I forget any details. It's basically about this girl that's known as the Girl from Widow Hills. Like, she was like a child when she was like found in a storm drain, and she became famous. Like, everybody in the country talked about her. And so she really did not like having all the spotlight on her. So she like changed her name when she was legal enough to, and like left Dodge. She left town. And so she started a new life. And then now on the anniversary of this, you know, thing that happened, she's figuring out a lot of things, and maybe things happened not in the way that she expected it to. And it sounded so intriguing. Like, that sounds intriguing, but it was boring. Like, the whole plot was boring. It was predictable. It was just blah. I think it could have been so much more, but it just wasn't, sadly. And this one really let me down because, again, the premise sounded so good, but it was just, again, I say, just kind of boring. Next up, we have Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. This is a YA contemporary novel. I've read all of her books before. She writes a lot of YA fantasy. This was her foray into YA contemporary. I was excited for it, but it was mediocre in my opinion. It's about a girl named Prudence who's very high-strung. She's type A, and she gets paired with this guy at school to do this project, and of course things happen, and nothing really happened in this book, and I really love YA contemporaries, and I wanted more from it. That's all I can say about it. I felt like nothing happened. In fact, like, the whole title of this book was called Instant Karma because she hits her head and she's enabled to enact karma on people. And it was such a minuscule part of the plot. I'm like, why name the title that if it's not even really going to be in the book? That's just me. I was sad about it. And the last one I want to talk about is She's Faking It by Kristen Rockaway. This is a book about a character named Bree who has a tough time. She's trying to live paycheck to paycheck. She's like a grub getter, like an Uber Eats I don't know what they're called. Like, that's what she does, and her sister has to bail her out with money a lot, and she decides that she wants to become a social media influencer, and that's what it's about. I just didn't like the main character. She was always like, woe is me, well, my car keeps breaking down, oh, I have to be this delivery driver, but my sister always bails me out of trouble, and I'm like, you have that. A lot of people don't even have all of that. So, like, chill out. And the fact that she just decided to become a social media influencer, like, I wish it was that easy, but sometimes it's not. Like, it takes a long time to get, like, established with that. Like, it was hard. So I didn't enjoy this book at all. Also, the cover, again, misleading. It's like a girl swimming in a coconut. It's not really told in summer. There's no summery aspect to it. Ugh. Yeah, those were the books that just were not for me this year, and that's okay. Every year there's some that I read that I'm just like, oh, I didn't enjoy it, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. But if I mention any book on here that you just love and just admire so much, that's great. I am so happy for you. You keep on with your opinion, and you keep loving that book. I sadly did not, and that is okay. I would love to know, what are some of your least favorite books this year? Are there any books you've read that are just like, oh boy, like, I did not like that at all? I would love to hear them. Do we have similar ones or different ones? Please let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.